I know this is a late response, whatever, it's not like anyone else responded to this garbage. Now this isn't just your everyday response to a shitty video, it's already got some tactfully done damage control attached to it as well. Basically, up until this point, me and Cody had recently re-added each other on Facebook after crossing paths again on a Facebook thread. We used to be friends in 2013. But then I end up checking my white privilege featuring NateTalksToYou showing up on my feed by Cody. As I'm sure you're all aware, I'm not too fond of Nate, and took issue in this comment section that the same guy who smears charcoal on his face to argue the moral quandaries of blackface maybe shouldn't be the guy you get as your right-hand man at tackling the issues of white privilege. Now of course I got the expected response from these anti-safe space, pro-free speech logical skeptics and got my comment deleted and blocked on Facebook. The wussbag even went as far as to delete his own video only to re-upload it again so it doesn't have the nasty comments from me, Marbles and Peter along with the 4 dislikes. Such a fragile man. Shit attempt at damage control as well, given that it was all screenshotted. Way to go. So let's just skip through this 1 minute of him rocking back and forth, but quickly focus on how much he stutters though. Not good.
What's up guys, this is Dina Tokio here, coming to you with 20 simple ways to look oppressed.
I don't get this argument. She lives in a country where she has the freedom of choice whether to wear a hijab or not, and she chose to wear it using her freedom of choice. And before you throw in that he's joking, please note that he repeated this point sincerely later on in the video.
That her living in a first world country grants her the privilege to not wear a hijab, and yet she chooses to wear a hijab.
So someone looks oppressed because they chose to wear something on their own volition without being bound to the clothing.
I feel as a straight white male, it's my civic duty to tackle this video as soon as possible. And I will also be having my fellow straight white male, NateTalksToYou, jumping his perspective.
Yeah, I'm a straight white male, and it's my duty to have Nate Talks to you with me.
Comments, and there's a lot of white people getting offended by being told that they have white privilege, which is really stupid.
Well, yeah, when you are generalizing an entire group of people based on nothing more than their skin color, people are going to be offended. I mean, here you are, a brown Muslim woman living in a first world country making vlogs every week about all this makeup and clothing you buy. You have a massive following on various social media, and it's safe to say you're doing well for yourself. And you want to talk about privilege? Look in the fucking mirror.
At what point did she say she was not privileged herself? In fact, she went on to discuss how she isn't saying it as a way to chastise white people, and even acknowledge she had privilege as being half white. But you were too eager to call someone brown to focus on rationality.
It's a thing. It's a fact. It's a factual thing. It's a thing that happens in society. It's a thing. It's not like if I say, you've got white privilege, or I have white privilege, because I do, because I'm half white. It's not like a personal thing. It's not an offensive thing to say. It's a thing.
And do you or Cody ever play that part of her video? Do you as fuck? You don't show her acknowledging her privilege and how she doesn't hate white people, but instead show the parts where she says white people are dumb for getting offended over being called out on their privilege. And doesn't it seem to be an occurring trend for NateTalksToYou to continuously take things out of context and mislead people with his videos by leaving out important details? It's beyond fucking coincident at this point. Nate intentionally misleads his audience to push his own narrative, and Cody is clearly okay with that. So she isn't generalizing people based on their skin color. Nate is lying. She's explaining that when you are white, you are treated differently and are given certain advantages that others do not get. This isn't to say that if you're white, you will never face discrimination, but to say the former. You are given advantages.
That her living in a first world country grants her the privilege to not wear a hijab, and yet she chooses to wear a hijab when there are women in Saudi Arabia who get arrested for not wearing a hijab and posting about it on social media. So good job standing up for women's rights there, Dina.
So as said before, who gives a fuck if she wants to wear a hijab or not? That doesn't mean she condones the practice of making women face punishment for not wearing them.
And also, might I point out the fact that you are able to be a creator for change on YouTube and get money through your ads, whereas countless other YouTubers get ads pulled from their videos for not pushing the right narrative. So congrats to you on your privilege in that scenario as well.
Someone's salty as fuck and deluded if you seriously think getting ads ran through on the internet is comparable enough to the struggles non-whites can face. When you get a job at YouTube, you have to understand that your cash flow comes according to your fame. The more famous you are, the more money. When your livelihood is determined on something that fluctuates, and trust me, it doesn't have to be YouTube, you are taking a risk. You are gambling the risk of homelessness based on whether or not internet folks like you. That is far different to issues of racism. You guys chose to risk what you did by your job's nature. Surprised to say, most marginalized people that aren't masochists don't like being oppressed.
Also, it must be nice to be able to drop out of college to pursue your fashion career, Dina. I noticed that you did that as opposed to pushing through. And I know college isn't for everyone, but as a hardworking college student, it kind of sticks in my craw when somebody like you talks about other people being privileged just because they're white, while you're off profiting in your own little fantasy world.
Not that your audience would have known since you totally cut the clip of her saying she's half white, but yeah, given that she's half white, it would go to show that she would include herself in the category of people with privileges based on race. But for some reason, Cody and Nate have to take it so personally. Could that be for the reason that she's wearing a hijab? I feel like that already gives them a disconnect from her. She doesn't feel white, therefore she must be pointing her fingers at us. No. That isn't the case, and for you guys who align with the side who mocks white guilt, you sure seem guilty over the notion that you guys have it better off than non-whites.
You know, Tusi and Perry are talking about how, you know, Perry has white privilege. You know, he can walk out the door and be seen as a normal person, a normal white man. He doesn't need to be questioned.
Why is that normal?
Well, because that's society sees white as normal. This is what white privilege.
Dina, you live in a majority white country. Of course being white is perceived as being normal. If you were living in an Asian country like China, looking like this would be normal. And if you were living in an African country like Nigeria, looking like this would be normal. A white person there would be an outlier. So, until white people in the UK are replaced as the majority population, they will continue to be viewed as being normal.
Okay, so you agree with her? Good to know, Nate.
Dina, if you were to go down into the deep south of the United States and walk down to the most nasty-ass trailer park you could find, go scream to them, "You have white privilege because of the color of your skin." Yeah, probably not gonna bode so well.
Well, I mean, they're less likely to be shot by the police. Also, just because there are marginalized people that are white doesn't disprove the notion of white privilege. Especially when the girl you're fucking responding to, again, goes on to say that she has faced both being seen as not normal, but also reaping the benefit of white privilege.
With being seen as normal comes many, many benefits that they will never ever see or realise unless they can change their race, which they can't, or unless they look visibly, like for example me and Tusi, because we wear scars, we look visibly different. And what I also want to say is, me and Tusi are half white, half Egyptian. Quite clearly we have light skin, colour, but we look different because we wear scarves, things like that. Obviously we get seen differently, but we also have privileges, white privileges, compared to, let's say, a black hijabi.
Such a shame that being manipulative and dishonest with your audience is much easier than being able to string one argument that isn't wrong and only works on the grounds that her words are being bended beyond repair.
Can we just address the fact that her entire channel is based off of her essentially being a model as a non-white person? Dina, you're essentially proof that being white isn't everything.
No, it means what I just said before, that you can reap the benefits of white privilege and also the brunt of being treated differently. You know, it's all context-based, like she said.
Do you get me? Privileges for being white within our Muslim communities, within lots and lots of different things as well. So it's not just like because Tusi's in a scarf. Tusi also has privileges, but they'll be different. They'll be, everybody has different, it depends on your context and everything.
This is getting pathetic. Is there not one point you Muppets didn't take Dina out of context?
Obviously with being seen as normal, comes many, many benefits.
Hey, white people, you have many, many benefits. You can't actually see them. I'm not going to give any examples of them, but you have them.
Ooh, we'll throw back to her actually giving examples.
Tusi and Perry are talking about how, you know, Perry has white privilege. You know, he can walk out the door and be seen as a normal person, a normal white man. He doesn't need to be questioned.
Why is that normal?
Well, because that's society sees white as normal. This is what white privilege.
You know, I remember when I was first born, I got my first small loan of $1 million, and I got my first slave. A minority, of course. Ever since then, I've lived a very well-off life.
Jeez, Cody, that's fucked up. I don't know why you're sharing that with us.
You're right, Dina. Because, you know, let's just neglect all mental, all socioeconomic issues that somebody faces throughout their life and just look at all of them as one color and narrow it down to the fact that it's all white people that are privileged. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've had the shittiest life in the world, because I'm grateful for the things that I've had. I was born practically blind, and for that reason I was kicked out of the Navy, which was one of my major goals in life. It really set me back. Also, growing up, I had a house foreclosed on, and I faced nothing but financial issues throughout my entire life. But no, I gotta check my privilege, because, you know, white.
Well, Cody, you having the hard life of your house being foreclosed because you were poor and getting kicked out of the Navy because of your eyesight could have happened no matter your race. This is just a diversion tactic because the examples of hardship have nothing to do with the general argument of white people have privilege.
I was reading through the comments and somebody did a really nice, short, straight to the point comment explaining what it is for all the people who don't understand, and I thought I'd read it out because basically that's what I've just been wanting to say.
Yes, because if the people watching won't agree with you, they're sure to believe some random commenter.
And if people aren't to believe you, Nate, just get a clip of your black friend approving your message next time.
You know, this is legitimately insulting to people who produce content of actual substance.
I don't know what you're on about, Cody. I don't feel insulted in the slightest by a video. I'm more insulted that you try to pass her video off for something that it isn't, though. Tell your pal Nate, who loves blackface makeup a little too much, to cut taking things out of context as well. And if this video's any basis, Cody, tell yourself that, because you're no better. For shame. The both of you guys.